Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Map Making with Spark. So we're once again working on Foxy Boxes today. I'm very sorry about the long delay between episodes. It's been a crazy couple of weeks for me. I've had a commission that I have been working on with Janikin, which I'm not allowed to talk about until January, but it was a lot of fun to work on, but it was also a lot of work. So a lot that, along with my regular work and stuff, has kept me away from this. This is literally the first moment I have had to myself in about 2 weeks, where I haven't been working or sleeping. So I finally kind of have time to just sit down and make an episode. So let's get to it. Let's continue on. So after the last episode, I was sent some office equipment, some filing cabinets and things like that, by a couple of people. Pro Red sent some in, and Polyboy as well. And they look pretty neat. They are Minecraft textured, so the textures will need changing. But in general, I think these would be quite cool to use. Now you'll notice that these are actually not blocks. They're held in the hand of an armor stand. Similar to what we've been doing with the flowers and stuff. So we can make these solid by putting a barrier block inside them, but it's kind of cool. There's a slight issue where if you follow the one right here, when it goes slightly off screen, it does vanish at the edge of the render distance. But this way we don't use up a ton of blocks for these items. So I will see how much it bothers us. We can possibly have a block which is generically textured to be similar in texture to the filing cabinet. So at the very edge of the screen, the held item vanishes and this sort of other block inside appears instead, and it just sort of becomes like a low detailed thing in the corner of the screen. But in general, it should be okay. So they're pretty neat. We could possibly even have it so that the drawer nudges shut when you brush against it, although I don't know if we want to do that. So these will be great for decorating the office, sort of the laboratory officey area at the beginning of the game. On top of that, we have new versions of the TNT textures sent over by E19, with a sort of a stone plate on top, which is sort of upright until you jump on it, and then the rest are all depressed versions. Very depressed. So that's cool. Some really cool models being sent in, really cool textures. Thank you all so much for doing that. Had a few more levels submitted by people as well, level layouts, which is great. And we have new snapshots and a host of new problems that come with them. So, 1 second. So there are a whole load of new sound effects that have been added to the latest snapshots, and one of them is the sound that I logged in and it took me ages to work out what this was, but when items are replaced, when your armor is put on, or when the armor is put onto an entity, it makes this noise. So it's actually, this is causing it. This armor stand over here is constantly changing the block in its head to say play options or video terms, depending on where we're looking. And that is causing this noise to play when we are looking in the right orientation. So the way that I fix this, thankfully, all you need to do is give it a silent tag. It's already in there because I already did it. But now that we've entity dated this to be silent, it's no longer an issue. So that's okay. So thankfully we don't have to replace the sound with a blank sound in the sound file or something like that. Something annoying like that. That's the first time I've ever felt like I needed to use a silent tag on an armor stand. But there you go. So that's cool. We may have some sounds we have to deal with now. For instance, punching the villager, the invisible villager that we have here, that we're using to track our selections, makes this noise now when you click it, which is, bad. So we'll have to, well, I don't know, it's not quite the noise I'm after, and it'll also happen when we're running through the level and clicking the villager bubble around us, so we may have to get rid of that sound or replace it with something else. But that's okay. So what I want to work on today is the inventory interface. So for this game, we are not really going to have an inventory. There's no crafting, there's no items exactly, but we can use the inventory screen, the survival inventory screen, and the hotbar to display information, I think. So for example, for this hotbar, we can display number of lives the player has, and perhaps the number of collectibles that they have gotten, which will be kind of handy. We can sort of keep a count of that information, which will be good. And the actual survival menu, we should be able to use. I'm dressed as a static man today. We should be able to use this as a way of providing a menu. So if people want to like exit the game, like quit the level or something, then they should be able to go in here, and we can maybe have some statistics about their game progress so far, any information we feel we need to display to the player, and a quit level, or options about the game within this inventory. I think that'll be quite a nice place to put it. So one thing I want to do, obviously, is retexture this completely so that it doesn't look like this. So that we don't have all the slots and things, so it looks more like a menu and less like an inventory. And the bar, I think I want to completely get rid of this bar down here, because that way, when we are in areas of the game, such as a lobby, where there are no lives or points being displayed, we can completely clear the bottom bar and leave it free. So say when we're in the start game screen, like when we're in this box, in the start game section, then we basically don't really want the inventory down here because it'll be in the way. So I think I'm going to get rid of the inventory texture, the hotbar texture completely, and any display items that we have down there will have a box texture around them. So, for example, we could even have things like have like equal symbols or things like that in the hotbar. Something else I was thinking about as well is that if you throw an item down the ground, you press Q. We need to stop people from doing this if we're using items in the hotbar. I believe I can get rid of the selection bar so that people scrolling through don't see which one they have selected. And I don't know how to get rid of the text, because that's a setting, I think. Possibly under controls? Touchscreen mode? What's that? Or maybe video settings? Attack indicator. Wow, there's loads of new stuff I don't know anything about. But anyway, I think it might be a settings file settings, actually. I don't know if they've built it into the GUI, but you can get rid of that like that. I don't know whether we can, give them all blank names. Actually, let's just try that a second. So, okay, so I'm going to summon an item with a blank name, a stone block with a blank name here. I'm going to pick it up, and it's right here. So that has no name, no visible name. If we scroll over it, great. So it doesn't display anything. So we can delete items that have been thrown out of the inventory with Q using a command that just deletes all items. We can have special exceptions for certain item types if we want to make sure they don't get deleted. We can stop the name appearing by naming them blank, and we can use the display properties for these items to make them invisible. So let me show you something in a second. If I get rid of that and I give myself a diamond hoe with damage of 13, you can see this is one of the cabinets. It's kind of held in front of my face. That's the offset settings that this item has. But if I throw it on the ground, it is invisible. So we can use this to make it feel like you just can't throw things out of the inventory. Then the last thing that we have to do really is just check to see if somebody has thrown an item out of their inventory, and if they have, replace it with a new one. I guess we're gonna have to find the least laggy way to do that. But yeah, let's start by deleting the hotbar, I guess, and then making some items which look like. Actually, hang on a second. Let me think about this. Okay, so I've just had a bit of a think about the things that we would probably want to display on this hotbar. So let me. This is the first sort of time I've really given a bit of thought to what items and things that I actually want this game to provide. So, in order of things, I think in the order of how likely I think I want them. Lives, definitely. So self-explanatory. How many lives you have. It's going to be a life-based game. If you die, you lose a life. It's game over if you lose all your lives, which means that you have to start the level again. You can't continue from the checkpoint. Fuel is going to be the sort of the collectible item, the coins, the Wumpa fruit, the gears, whatever. that you can collect to, when you get enough of them, you can then get an extra life, that kind of thing. The reason I'm going to go with fuel is because we're traveling in a spaceship, and it seems to make sense that we are trying to find fuel in some way. That fuel may be some kind of plant that we can turn into fuel, or some kind of crystal which we can use to generate fuel. I'm not entirely sure what it will be, but I think that'll be a good, sensible thing to be collecting in these levels to make sure that we can travel around these planets in our spaceship without running out of fuel. Mysterious machine. Now this will have the this will be the special collectible in each level. So that will be an item which you can get by breaking all of the crates in a level, and possibly other conditions as well. Like certain things you have to unlock, you have to do certain things to get them. And the reason I'm going to go with mysterious machines is because I want them to be something that you don't have to collect to complete the game. You do have to collect them to 100%, but we can get a lot more out of our levels by having parts of the level that you can, like parts of some levels that you can't access unless you have played a different level further on. So, for example, we could have level. This is level 3, and over here is a extra bit of level 3 that we can't reach because there's just a hole in the way, right? And then in level 10 over here, we can get a mysterious machine of some kind to put into a slot that's right here, and that will create a platform here. And then once we have completed level 10, we can then go back to level 1 or level 3, and now we can jump across this gap because the mysterious machine has somehow opened up this extra route, which means that some earlier levels might not be completable, like fully 100%able until a later level is accessed. So I think that's a way of getting more out of each level and increasing the sort of the value of the gameplay that we're giving the player here. So I think that's going to be kind of cool. And then I'm not too sure about these two. One would be deaths, so that your death count, which I don't know if that's... I think that's probably not too important to be displaying in the hotbar, so maybe not, but maybe for the inventory. And time, which I don't know if we can display nicely. I mean, we could possibly display that in the main inventory, but I don't know how we do that with items is the thing. Like, we'd probably need a slot per digit or something, right? So total playtime would have to be sort of the 10 and the 100 or the unit or whatever across a line of inventory bars or something. I don't know how good we could make it look. Or we could do 2 characters, 2 digits per box, but then we have to have like 99 different number textures, which might be a bit crazy. So I'm, again, not too sure about that. So I think what we really only need is these 3 things in the hotbar. Because we don't have any items we can use in the hotbar, it's not going to be a hotbar, it's just a display bar. So I think that's that. Speaking of time, game time, we can't... I'd like to be able to accurately measure how long people have been playing the game for, because I've said at the beginning that I quite like people to be able to speedrun this. And with speedrunning, you want accurate timing. So we can't use a redstone clock to keep track of time, because if there is latency or lag, redstone ticks or game ticks drop, so you have less than 20 ticks per second, which means that the game time is then wrong, which means somebody with a bad computer could technically play through the game in less, inverted commas, time than somebody with a great computer, which is kind of weird. So I believe you can use the world border to track accurate time, because the world border uses the computer clock, not Minecraft's inbuilt timing system. But I don't know how to do that. I don't know if anybody knows of a way to track game time with with barriers. So with that in mind, we've got 3 things that we want to display on our hotbar, which we can space like this, I think, to get a fairly nice feel for it, or we could move these out one as well if we wanted, but I suppose we don't want them to take up too much space. And I think we can actually make them display wider than the box they're in the hotbar. We'd have to play around with that a little bit, but so lives, fuel, and any mysterious machines that have been collected. So we could potentially have, if there's 2 per level, we could have a second one shown there, maybe. I don't know. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So I'm going to quickly throw together some icons and get rid of the hotbar, so we can kind of see how this is gonna look. Okay, well that was a little bit of work. I've got 3 icons and I got rid of the hotbar GUI, which is kind of cool. All of them are unnamed, so as I scroll through them, you can see my hand vanish, and I've also made it so that they don't appear on the ground. So that's kind of cool, and they have no name. So I think we need some sort of invisible item in the other slot so that the hand doesn't kind of bob in and out depending on where you scroll. That way it'll really feel like it's not a hotbar. But that's kind of cool. The heads look a bit out of place now I think about it, and I literally just threw together the mysterious machine and health bar, and come to think of it, considering that you've always got those and those, I guess I'm just trying to think about how it'll balance out if things change. So you always have lives. We can just have a 0 or like a grayed out version of that, and I guess a grayed out version of that if you don't have it, or something like that, like a translucent or just like grayscale version. But we should be able to display how many of an item you have just by giving them a different amount of it. And then when they've got a certain amount of something, we can do things. But that seems kind of neat. I also got rid of the icons for the potion effects, but the text is still here. There's 2 problems with this. First of all, the text is still there, and secondly, it shifts the inventory to the right of the screen. Let's go into game mode 0 a second. So you can see it kind of... Oh, I forgot to get rid of... I need to get rid of the health and hunger bars as well, because we don't want those showing, and probably not the XP bar either. I don't know if we will have a use for the XP bar. I feel like probably not, to be honest, unless... There isn't even really anything we have which recharges, so I think we'll probably be good to cut it out for the time being. I also feel like I needed a developer pack, like a developer texture pack, which sits on top of the main Foxy Boxes one, so when I'm working, I can actually like see which GUI item I have selected, because that's getting annoying. But it's kind of cool that we have these items in the hotbar, and you cannot see them in your hand at all. You can't see them on the ground. It's kind of neat, really, I think. So the only thing we can really not stop them doing is throwing it. But yeah, about this this text, I don't know if there's any way to get rid of it. With a language pack, it might be possible to get rid of the words haste and resistance, but we've still got the numbers there. So I can think of 2 things we can try. One would be to have... Actually, I was going to say we could retexture the inventory to have something that goes over here and make it the same color as the text, but there is a shadow to the text, so we can't really hide it fully. The other thing we could try is maybe have an item in one of the slots of the inventory which is scaled to be really big and offset, so it effectively covers that, but the text may well go in front of these. I don't know what render order it is. So I guess that's kind of neat. We've got the ability to display stuff. Crates will be able to drop things. So yeah, feel free to send over any sort of textures you can think of that would look cool for lives, fuel, and mysterious machines. A few more things to mention that I forgot to say. I'm using the dies as these items because they... I was originally going to use wool blocks because I thought you could have a different icon as an item, but I couldn't work it out. I think I just had the wrong name for the item display, because for texture packs there is a different folder for items and for blocks, so you can technically give a block a different texture when it's in your hotbar than when it's placed. So I was going to use the wool blocks for that, but the dies are fine. We're not going to use those anyway, so that's all cool. The other thing I wanted to say is that if people were wondering about how I stop them from displaying in the hand or when thrown on the ground, that's to do with the scaling, which we showed in a previous episode, but I'm just putting it on the screen now. This is sort of the format where you can choose the scale and translation and stuff like that for each of these items. I've been thinking about this a bit more, and I'm a bit worried about stacks of items like this, because although we can tell when somebody throws one of these items down, because there is, in the snapshots, I believe they have added a throw items and pick up items scoreboard, which we can use to tell when somebody's thrown an item on the ground. Even though they have that, people can go into the inventory and they can pick up any number of these, and they can spread them around like this. And if we tried to count how many were in the inventory, we would still end up with the same amount, right? So I'm a little worried that when people are in the inventory, we're going to have trouble controlling them if we've got these splittable stacks of items, and it won't look very nice. We can't really stop people from picking the items up in the first place. If there's one, they'll be able to do this. But we can at least make it so that they can't do stuff like random things like this. So I'm actually also, because the numbers are a little small, I'm tempted to actually use the stone tools, which have 132 damage values each, and use the stone tools for these and actually generate a different number for each one. I think with a bit of code, with a bit of programming, I should be able to automate the process of all these numbers without having to do them all by hand. So with that way, we can also get over the 64 stack rule and get up to like 99 of each item, which is probably a good amount. So I don't think we'll need more than, let's say, 3 for these. But no, I think you should get a new life when you get 99 of these. And I think the max should be 99 lives, not 64. So I think there's a way with Photoshop of generating a frame per number and having the number go up automatically each time. I'm going to have to look into that a second, but I think we could use that. And then we can use my durability models generator to generate all of the different textures based on the damage value of the tool, and then I should be able to write a bit of JavaScript to generate an output that'll just generate a line of command blocks for each possible amount of lives and collectibles. Okay, so this turned out to be fairly complicated as a job, but I worked out how to do it. So in Photoshop, I've got my file here, and over here I've got my fuel cell icon, and I've already done this for the gear, but I'm now doing it for the battery on camera, so you can kind of see how I did it. I basically followed an online tutorial. So what you need to do is you go to your text layer, and up in image variables, you can define a variable. So what I've done here is I have got a text file called image numbers. The first line is the name of the variable, image number, and then I just have the numbers 1 to 99, which I very quickly generated using Google Docs. So this is the file I'm referencing, and we want to use the image number text replacement variable. So this changes the text to whatever is on line X of the iteration of this output. So we go next, and here I've basically selected that file. Whoops, hang on, what am I doing? Oh yeah, via import here, I was able to enter this file path to the text file. I made sure that I used first column for dataset name, and then that's it. The name is the image number, and then we've got a value here. So that's applied and okay, and then we can go to File, Scripts, Image Processor, and this allows us to select, File Export. I'm doing this a step ahead here. So I went File Export, Dataset to Files. So I can select the folder, Textures Foxy Boxes. I'm actually going to change that to Textures Foxy Boxes /fuel, and then we can choose a name. So we're going with fuel1.psd, and the one will be replaced with whatever the value is of the fuel thing, and it only outputs as PSD, unfortunately. So there's another step here. So I'm going to click OK, and in our fuel folder, we're now going to have eventually, there we go, 99 different fuel cells, different fuel PSD images. Now the next step is turning those into images, because they're currently Photoshop files. So we're going to go to Scripts, Image Processor, and then I use Select Folder and type in that file path. and then we can save it to the same folder as a JPEG. There's no PNG option, and we do need PNG for Foxy Boxes for Minecraft. So we have to save it as a PNG, as a JPEG, sorry. So we can click Run, and my computer's now going to get very slow while it runs through all of these, but we should start to see a folder called JPEG has been created, and these images are being generated in here. And then finally, I used a third-party program. I used a program called Format Factory to just convert all of those to PNG. So you'll need some sort of file formatter if you're doing this yourself. So that's it. I used my Format Factory program to turn them into PNGs, and I now have a folder in my textures folder for the resource pack called Foxy Boxes, and it's just got all of these different images in it. So next, I've gone to accidentalgames.com/media/durabilitymodels.php. I will try and remember to put a link for this in the description, and I can now select Stone Tools as my thing here. I'm going to generate for unbreakable tools because we don't want the damage value of the tool to have a green bar under our image. We're going to generate a model file around the result, and we're going to add a rising number after the model placeholder, which means that we can call it Foxy Boxes /gear, I believe it was called. Yeah, gear. And when we click generate, it's going to put a number after each one. So gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, gear 4. And then we'll use gear as a 0 texture. So I'll create a grayed out version of it for that. And that goes all the way up to gear 130. We don't actually need that many, but we can delete those in a moment. So that's our code right there. And we'll basically just change this out so that it is referenced by the stone tool item. So I've pasted this into Notepad++. I literally just need to change this to stone hoe, I guess I'll use first for the gear, and save that as stone hoe in our models item folder as a .json file. It's at this point that I realised that we're referencing a model file, not an image file, which means we're going to have to create a model file for each of these. And that needs a stone hoe there. Okay, so I'm going to try something here. Bit of a throwback moment. This is Panther, which is a modified version of the Scratch programming language by MIT, which I helped create years ago, which has, among other things, the ability to create and modify files on your computer. So because I don't want to have to hand generate 99 model files, and because I'm not really a PC programmer like Java or C#, I'm much more of a web programmer, and none of those can really create files very easily. I'm just going to use this. So this literally is going to set a variable called count to 0, and then 99 times it's going to add 1 to count, and then it's going to write the JSON information for the texture of each of these files to a gear file, gear count.json. So when I press the green flag here, it should just allow it to write to my computer, should generate files. It hasn't. So I've just remembered that you have to use clear file to generate the file first, since if the file doesn't exist, nothing happens. So by using clear, I should be able to generate the file and then write to it. There we go, perfect. So we've got our JSON files here, and each of these should contain a valid JSON format, parent, Foxy Boxes Gear 1, so that's pointing at the correct image. And then if I look at Gear 15, it should have Gear 15 inside. Perfect. So I just did this in a little test folder there to make sure I didn't accidentally overwrite anything, but I can now copy these out and put them in the main models folder. Okay, so that basically worked. We can give ourselves a stone hoe with a different damage value to get a different number in the corner of the thing. I do realize that I failed to export them with transparency. It turns out, obviously, JPEGs don't support transparency, so we've got this little white box around it. I can't work out how to export them with transparency, because TIFF doesn't seem to... You can export transparency with TIFF, but in Photoshop, when converting all of them automatically, there doesn't seem to be an option to tick the transparency box. So I don't know if there's a good way to automate this, or even if it's possible. And I may, to be honest, just go for a stack of numbers in the end, because I just generated like 400 files for this map, and I don't know how much size that takes up, but it's probably a little overkill, really. So I might not use it, but I'm interested to see what you guys think. And it was definitely an interesting experiment. I learned a bit more about how to use Photoshop today, which is kind of cool. So I think I'm going to call it here today, because it's quite a long episode. Next episode, we're going to work on a bit more of the internal inventory and like updating the inventory and like basing the display on lives and having refresh stuff. I think we'll do that next time. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye. What's this? This series has an outro now? Well, thank you very much to Thor20 for supporting this series via Patreon. You can support my channel or this series specifically by pledging on Accidental Games' Patreon, which is linked in the description. And the music you're listening to is the revised, redone version of the main Foxy Boxes theme, which Noodle Soup has put together. So I'm going to let the intro sort of run on, just so that you can listen to the song. Give feedback in the description to how you think it sounds now. I think it's a lot tighter and a lot better than it was with his first draft. So any feedback is great, because he'll probably read the description, the comments, and see what you have to say. All right, I'll leave you to listen.